Hi guys, Vathos here with Tiny Epic Galaxies. I thought I'd do a tutorial, show you some of how the dice effect works, and maybe play a couple of turns of a solo game here. So we have the setup for a solo game here, and I'm the green versus the Artemis Galaxy. We'll play a couple of rounds and see how this turns out. So we each get 5 dice. Here are the dice. And each of these faces will allow us to do a different action. So this is a rocket ship, which will allow me to move a rocket from either my starter planet to another planet or from planet to planet. This is the energy symbol, which allows my galaxy to produce energy. This is the economy symbol, which will allow my colony to produce economy, sometimes settling planets. This is the diplomacy symbol, also used to colonize planets. It's the colony symbol, which will trigger effects of your colonies. Culture, very important thing. Culture allows you to follow other players' dice rolls on their turn. Those are all the sides. So here we have an example of a colony card. You start off at this setting, and this box here determines how much energy or culture you have to spend to move up the track. And as you do that, the colonies start becoming worth victory points. It'll also increase the amount of dice that you get and potentially even how many ships you get. So as the further you move up this track using either energy or culture, you get additional dice to roll and more ships to move about to capture planets and gather resources. All the way up to a possibility of getting 8 points. The goal of the game is to get to 21 victory points, so 8 is a sizable portion of that. Another aspect is your ships return here. When you roll the energy symbol, this allows however many ships you have here or any of the other planets to produce energy. So on your turn, you'll take the 5 dice, you'll roll them, and you get 1 free reroll. If after that reroll you want to roll again, you have to spend energy in order to allow you to roll again, and you spend energy, 1 energy per time that you do a reroll. So we'll take a couple of turns here and roll the dice and see what we get, and I'll explain each of the actions to you, and hopefully you'll get a better understanding of how the game is played. So you get your 5 dice, you'll roll them off the screen, which is okay. I have a lot of energy. I need this. I need the activation bay. The activation bay is where you will lock in each of your dice as you use them. In the actuality that the RNG gods are not favorable, you can always trade 2 dice of any type to convert 1 die into the die that you need and use that effect. I have a whole lot of energy, some economy, and some diplomacy. I will spend 1 of the energy, locking it in, to produce 2 energy based off the fact that my 2 ships are my home planet, which will produce energy. Energy is always useful. I can't use those yet, but if I get to a planet, I might be able to. So I'm going to go ahead and roll these 2 energy. Getting culture and economy, neither of which is very helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and convert these 2 dice into a rocket die. This will allow me to move my ship onto this planet. And when you move onto a planet, you have two options. You can land directly on the planet to take this power's effect right away, or you can land on this colonize track. And whatever symbol here is what you need to use to move your ship around the colonize track to eventually colonize this planet and get this planet into your galaxy. So I'm going to go ahead and land on the colonize track, because at some point I want to be able to use that to get more planets. So I'm going to go ahead and go there. Go ahead and lock in that rocket. And last but not least, we have this diplomacy die. I'm going to go ahead and lock that in, because I know I want to advance my ship around this planet, moving it one position, getting closer to acquiring that planet. So that wraps up my turn. Okay, so up next we're going to have the enemy player turn. The Artemis Galaxy is going to go ahead and roll their dice. It's done a little differently for a enemy player in a solo game. Although they get 5 dice, you roll one at a time and apply its effect. So I'll demonstrate that. So we'll go ahead and roll one die. And they have the colonize symbol. So since they can use that, they're going to go ahead and lock it in. Looking at the card here for this solo planet, it has, when you use that, I will lose an energy. So they're going to go ahead and make me lose an energy. They're going to roll their next die. I can actually follow that. I think I will. I'll go ahead and spend my culture to upgrade my base, because chances are they might keep sapping my energy. So I'm going to spend 2 energy to upgrade my colony to the next tier, which will give me 5 dice. Should have been rolling 4 dice apparently. And will give me 1 victory point. So continuing on the other player's turn, I think that's one of the neat dynamics of this game is, even though it's not your turn, it's your opponent's turn, if you have culture, you can continue to take actions as they continue to do something. So you're not just sitting there idle while play goes around the table. That makes the demand for you to produce culture quite high to allow you to continue to take turns. So maybe you didn't roll what you needed, but somebody else did. You can take advantage of that and promote your galaxy by using their dice rolls. I think is a really neat element of the game. Continuing on the enemy player's turn, I'll go ahead and roll the next dice. They have a diplomacy symbol, which they cannot use, so it's basically discarded. So even if it was available, I couldn't follow it. Roll their next die. Another diplomacy symbol, which is good for me, so they're not doing anything. They can't use it. It basically gets discarded. Take up my ship. Okay, so I'm just going to apparently keep rolling diplomacy for them. And last but not least, I got another diplomacy. Excellent for me. And now if I'd only rolled that on my turn, I could have gotten a whole bunch of planets. So my enemy player didn't actually get to do much, which is good. Didn't attack me, only made me lose 1 energy. But I was able to take advantage of his colonize and improve my settlement. Okay, so it's back to my turn. So now I should have 5 dice. I should have had 4 last turn. So go ahead and roll these 5 dice and see what I get. Okay, so I, too, am into rolling diplomacy, but I really need that. So I'm going to go ahead and lock it in, which will allow me to move my ship 1 more space, and I will now acquire that planet and gain this ability that I can now use by rolling the colony symbol. So you're supposed to kind of tuck it underneath, and as you continue to grow, you'll have more of these options. My ship will return back to my home planet, and another planet will now become available. I also have scored 1 victory point, so I'm supposed to now announce that I have 2 victory points. Alright, let's see what else I can do. I need culture, but I have no way of producing it. I'm going to go ahead and give these 4 dice a reroll. Okay, so I really need a rocket. I was able to roll one, so I'm going to go ahead and use this rocket and lock that in, allowing me to move one of my ships. I'm going to go ahead and go to this one, which we'll use diplomacy to get around. But I also have the option of producing culture. And I rolled a couple of cultures, so I want to go ahead and do that so I can potentially follow my opponent's dice. So go ahead and use one of these culture dice. Lock it in. Since I have a planet there, I will earn 1 culture. I have another one. Go ahead and lock that in, also earning me a culture. And I have a colonized die. Alright, so my last die I have available is a colonize. There's actually not much I can do with it. I don't think I want to spend an energy to utilize it. I could advance one on that track, but I don't have one. I could potentially upgrade my home planet, but I don't have enough energy and I don't want to use culture for that. So I'll just go ahead and lock that die in and not be able to take advantage of it. So that pretty much wraps up my turn. So we're going to go ahead and roll for my opponent. Again, since this is a solo game, I'll run 1 die at a time. I got a economics, which, awesomely enough, they cannot use. Oh, now they got a rocket ship. They definitely can use a rocket ship. So, for the solo rules, they go for the leftmost planet that doesn't have one of their ships on it, and they'll go onto the colonized track. Okay, so the question is, do I want to follow and get another one of my rockets out there? I don't. I will not follow. Keep rolling dice for them. Got another economy, which now they can use since they're on this planet. So they're going to go ahead and lock it in. Advance 1 place on that colonized track. No, they got culture, which they can use, and they will produce either 3 energy or 3 culture, so they're going to go ahead and produce 3 culture, which is not good for me, because they can start following my die. And I have a colonize, which they will use to sap me of an energy. So I am now out of energy. So just as a point of clarity, the solo opponent cannot follow dice using culture. They will only use culture to advance their colony. So that ends my opponent's turn. It is now my turn. So I'll be able to roll my 5 dice and see what we get. I need diplomacy and culture. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use a rocket ship. Lock that in. And I'll move my ship to this one, activating its ability to discard 2 inactive dice to gain 2 energy and 2 culture, which is pretty awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and discard these 2 economy dice. So I'll just sit them here like I'm not going to use it, but I will gain 2 of those and 2 of those. I had rolled 2 culture dice, but I think I'm going to go ahead and use them as a reroll since I just gained a bunch. I'll go ahead and give them both a reroll, my free reroll, giving me a rocket ship and a colony. I'll go ahead and use the rocket ship. Lock that in. I will move my ship from this one to this one, giving me an energy. I will then spend my colonized dice to spend all 3 energy to upgrade my planet one more time, giving me another ship, giving me another victory point, so I'm now at 3 victory points. That's the end of my turn. Do my opponent's turn, rolling 1 dice at a time. He got a rocket ship, which he can use, so he'll go ahead and move to this planet track with me. Okay, so we're going to continue rolling the dice for the Artemis Empire. We got a culture, which they will use to produce 3 culture. 1, 2, 3. Roll the next die for the Artemis Empire. They will produce tree energy. Go ahead and roll again. They get a colonize, which they will not be able to use, so it gets discarded. And their last die, they will get another one, which should sap me of energy, but I don't have any left. So that will end their turn. So next it'll be my turn. Go ahead and get my 5 dice. If I expand my Emperor one more, I'll get 6 dice. So let's see what we get. Give it a good roll here. Go ahead and use a rocket to move my rocket to this colonized track. I will use this colonized dice to take advantage of this ability, which will move it 1 space. I will utilize my next colonize to do the same thing, advancing me again, giving me this planet and 1 more victory point, so I now have 3 victory points. We'll return my ship to my home planet and reveal the next planet. I have some more die left, so I'm going to go ahead and use my rocket to go ahead and start on that planet. And I have an economy as well that I will lock in and advance that one. So that was a pretty good round for me. Got a planet, got a new planet out, and started colonizing that planet. I need some energy, but we'll see what my opponent gets. So that's my turn. So next up is my opponent. Okay, so it's the Artemis turn. We'll go ahead and start rolling their die. Getting a colonize, which they're at max. A diplomacy, which they will go ahead and use. Which will advance this guy. Do I want to follow that? I have a bunch, so maybe I'll go ahead and spend 1 culture to follow that diplomacy. Next die, they have economics, which they will spend. Moving that ship, acquiring it. So this just gained a victory point. Bring out a new planet. next die, they got a Diplomacy, which they will use to advance this planet. And their last die is a Colonize, which they cannot use, so it is discarded. So that is the end of the Artemis turn. It should have happened last turn, that because they were at max culture, this will be set to 0 and they'll get another turn, but this time they'll only get 3 dice. So we'll go ahead and take that turn for them now, starting with the first die, which is a Colonize, which they cannot use, so it's discarded. Next, they get a Diplomacy, which they'll go ahead and lock in, advancing this planet. And their last die for the free turn is another Colonize, which they cannot use. So that ends the extra turn of the Artemis Empire and ends my opponent's turn. Okay, it's back to my turn. I get my 5 die to produce some energy. Let's see what I get here. Oh, I got a couple of energy. Oh, cool. Okay, so I'll go ahead and use an energy die. I'll produce 2 energy. Need to get to 4 to buy my next one, which I can do, so I'll use another energy die. Give me 2 more energy. I need a Colonize die. So go ahead and use this economics to move me along that planet. I'll use this rocket die. Lock that in, move my ship to here. Probably should have done that in the other order, but and I will go ahead and re-roll this culture, hoping for a colony, and I got Diplomacy, which is okay, because I'll go ahead and advance on this. I doubt I'll beat red to it, but maybe they'll get some bad rolls. So that ends my turn. It is the Artemis Empire's turn. Start rolling those dice one at a time. First we get some Diplomacy. They'll lock that in, which will advance that one. Next, they will get a rocket, which they can use, and they will go to this planet. A Colonize, which they will use to steal an energy from me or make me lose an energy. They will get another rocket, moving to this planet. And for their last die, they will get a economy, which they will use, and that will advance all planets that they're on that uses economy, which is both of these. So that ends the Artemis turn. That was a brief tutorial and a couple of sample of turns of Tiny Epic Galaxies. If you like what you see and you want me to do more episodes, please comment below. This has been a gameplay session brought to you by the Vathos Gaming Group. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.